name is Angela Schmidt. I'm the Eastlake Council at large. And if everyone wants to go around and introduce yourselves, and then we can turn it over to Mr. Workout. So, which makes it Angela start? Christy Seaver, 4-1-Lily.
Tom Boyer, Eastlake City Engineer.
Kevin Spelling, City of Eastlake, Service Director.
Rich Palmstad, City of Willoughby Service Director. Michael Brooks, WPCC Maintenance Supervisor.
Lisa Novak, Willoughby for Council.
Bob Carr, Willoughby Council. Bob Fiala, City of Willoughby Mayor. Tim Lamb, Willoughby City Engineer. Jack Orphan, Superintendent, WPCC.
Dave Fond, Eastlake Mayor.
Mike Murrow, Willoughby Council. Dan Geary, Willoughby Council. Jason Gibson, Eastlake Willoughby.
Melissa Moran, Eastlake President Council.
Danielle Spelling, Board Council.
Is it? Eastlake is chair.
Correct.
Okay.
So I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Workout.
Okay.
Thank you.
First agenda item is going over the executive summary. It'll be the most lengthy of what we talked about tonight. So hopefully everybody has their copies with them. And try to think this way. Start from the beginning. Last year we operated within our limits for discharge. We had one violation for the entire year, considering how many things we sampled for and all the things we sampled for. It was a minor violation for low-level mercury that is almost impossible to detect. So it was really, I always felt it's surrounding air in the machine. So that was the only violation we had, which shows how well our staff is doing, keeping the water clean. We average 6.5 million gallons per day, which is about 1.4% lower than the average flow since the last major expansion, which was in 1980. So we're about where we typically are. As a result of the capacity enhancement project, there were only 3 bypass events last year, which is all intent behind that. This team will run through everything we talked about today, is eliminating and reducing bypass events. So there were 3 events where we did bypass, and 3 where we avoided bypassing altogether. Altogether, we 8.875 or 57 million gallons of sewage was not released into the environment, quite a bit. If we didn't have that CEP, all that would have went into the environment. Since the completion of the CEP, what I want to point out is we have bypassed a total of 14.3 million gallons, but we have not bypassed 21.8, which is a reduction of 60.4%. And I want that to sink in a little bit. That's really significant amount of water not going into the environment that we stored and then treated after the fact. And part of what we're going to do, some project we're going to talk about one that's coming up, but construction of Lakeshore East, we're going to build that tank with the capacity to chunk water into that and store even more water to lower our bypasses, which is what EPA wants us to do. I think when we do that, we need to take some time, and that's going to be one of the things that's in what the EPA wants us to do, is to evaluate how well everything we're doing, and as it is now, we're doing pretty good. Item number 4, we transport or generate biosolids. We talked about that. I have a handout. We're going to talk about that at the end. But in this spot annual report, we saved roughly $250,000 by having it hauled in-house an hour. I have the handout for later. We'll go over it in detail a little more. Item number 5. In our NPS permit, it contains a requirement for additional toxicity sampling. The implementation of operational controls to reduce effluent ammonia concentrations and the toxicity limit for the plant effluent went into effect October 1st. We will continue to use operation controls and bioaugmentation to achieve effluent concentrations below 8 milligrams and maintain a 25% reduction in the concentration below baseline targets that we've established. This action will obtain and continue to achieve compliance with the whole effluent toxicity limits. I bring this up because if we don't do that, it can lead the EPA to eventually imposing some sort of toxicity limits on us that would force us to change the way the plant actually functions. We can't reduce ammonia, and really that is the toxic part of our effluent. We can't keep it below 8. We become toxic to fish in the EPA's eyes, and we'll have to do something significant to the plant to make us a nitrifying plant, which we are now, but we do partially nitrify on our own enough to lower below that 8 threshold. And we've been really good at managing it and keeping it, even though we're not designed for it. And just want to bring that up because that could be something at some point if EPA decides to force us into that. It would be significant cost to modify the plant. Item number 6 really is the checklist of our last permit, and I'll try to go through these without being too boring, but these were all negotiated things that we needed to do to control sanitary sewer overflows, all part of the wetland control. And the first one was no later than December 31st of 2020, we should initiate construction of the recommendations of the WPCC capacity analysis report. We did that, we talked about that before. We initiated part of that. What came out of that was capacity enhancement project, which I talked about earlier. All these things all come together. It's all about stopping overflows. The project started in May of 20, but concluded in June of 21. From that point on, we started doing other parts of what was required of us earlier than we needed to. And that's where that data came from on reductions on biogases. So no later than June of 21, we needed a PTI permit to install for Waverly Phase 2. You guys did that by June of 21. You completed that project. As far as I know, it was substantially complete October 25th of last year. And so that aspect there again is part of allowing more water to go to Clinton, be stored. So all part of the overflow elimination. Other item was by no later than last December 31st, we needed a PTI for the Lakeshore East EQ project that we'll talk about in depth later. And now that we needed to do that, but we did not have the engineers to talk about why we didn't make that timeline for the end of December. So we asked EPA to push back the PTI submission until September 6th of 24. Along with that, companion with that is like since we're starting the PTI so late, we push back the construction completion date from the end of next year or this year to I believe it's like April 3rd or 26th. We have not heard from EPA yet. They haven't gotten back to us on our permit mod request. And my experience before when we did this with Waverly is like I didn't hear from them for 8 to 9 months before they even reached out to comment. So I don't think they'll have a problem with it. It's just a date. We're demonstrating what we're good faith for moving forward. You know, we've got all sorts of things going on. We got a $3.5 million earmark, a congressional earmark. It's clear that we are moving forward and trying to get that done. So I don't think that we'll have the issue with that permit model. No later than just this last December 31st, submit a post-construction monitoring plan. If you have your book, it's in Appendix C. Read it later on, for your pleasure. And it outlines how we're going to demonstrate that we're reducing the bypasses. Like I said, we're already doing most of it. We already have meters in every place that I think we need to see the reduction. So here we are. June 30th of every year, we have to submit how well we're doing, and it's just a kind of a status report, kind of like what we're talking about here. If you talk to EPA or 30th, just say like all these projects and where they are, where they move along to. Item number 7 is an SSDCP, which is Satellite Sewer Discharge Control Program. WPCC is not in charge of any of the collection systems that come to. We're not responsible to charge. You guys are. We'll be East Lake, Lake Mine, Timber Lake. And so the SSDCP is just a program that you guys have to document to me once a year that you guys are maintaining your sewers and doing maintenance, so that what's coming to us is not full, iodine, flowing infiltration. We have to document to me any water and basement issues that happens, any overflows in your community have to be reported to me, because I have to then in turn report it to the EPA. Once again, they're only good for water that is not going to the treatment plant. Any water that doesn't make it where it's supposed to. That's what their job is. Item number 8, there was no pretreatment compliance inspection last year. We generated roughly there again, another $250,000 in fees and surcharges and inspection permits and stuff like that. Of the 879 samples we collected, only 10 were violations. I mean, most industries know what to do. They call us up and tell us when something goes wrong, or ask for advice on how to solve any potential problem. It's really amazing how even new industries reach out to us before they even install anything, so that they know that we're in compliance. It's a really good aspect of keeping water clean. There's a lot of things that we can't take out. There's a lot of things that once they go in the water, they just end up in the lake eventually. And number 9, maintenance department. We pretty much routine preventive maintenance occupy our guys almost all the time, but every year we take on different projects here and there, whatever we think we can get done. And one of them was Mike Brooks is here, his maintenance department, replaced a chlorine contact chamber in the Cape. Probably means nothing to you. We should do a little slideshow on this day. But it was a big job. They had to shut the entire plant down. They poured off a chunk of it so that they could start the plant back up and then work with all that water around them to remove something that was embedded in concrete to put another thing back in place. It took roughly a week for all that to get done. Huge job, a lot of planning to accomplish that. And they did an awesome job with that. Another thing they did is they totally rebuilt one of the pump stations at the landfill in Louisville. They need new pump bases. There again, planning, you got to shut all flow off, you got to lift the lid off, evacuate all the air, there's lots of methane. It's just a big undertaking with lots of planning, and replace the pumps and the bases, the rails, and control panel. Item number 10, the number of employees we had was 18 full-time. Lots of activity last year. You read there, 2 employees resigned. We hired a new operator. We had one from the service department. They went into our lab. 2 employees were promoted to supervisory spots. We rewrote job descriptions. The EPA has changed the way you can get licensing. And the most important thing is we rewrote the supervisory job descriptions to give pathways for people to obtain their Class 4s. I'm Class 4. The superintendent's plan has to be Class 4. Hard to find, hard to get. Mike Brooks is currently working on his Class 4. How long have you been working on that, Mike?
About 8 months.
8 months. And he's not done yet, about 90% done. And then we submit it to the EPA, and then they have up to a year to review it, to get back to you. And if they don't like something, they give it back to you and start over again, or update what they want. So it's a tedious process, and a lot of our jobs that we had, according to the EPA, wouldn't allow them to even apply for Class 4. So we had to change all the job descriptions. Busy personnel year. Item number 11, safety priority, 2 minor incidents again. I think we do a really good job with that. Everybody's really super safe. Item number 12 is rehab of 2 underground EQ tanks. A long time, some of you guys may remember, we were going to do them, and we did not do we did a study to see what we needed to do to clean the tanks. The problem with the tanks, they were put in before the latest technology, which there's all sorts of things mostly called a tipping bucket, where it's filled with water, it dumps and cleans went and looked into getting all those things that we fixed, Erie Road and we fixed, Meadowlands, but we still have Lakeshore West and Dalton need to be retrofitted with some sort of cleaning mechanism. Those two, the preliminary design was done by CT, and that is really on hold, because to me it's not a priority. What's a priority is everything in our permit. And what's our, in our permit is what we got, the EPA's outline what we need to do to pursue it. If some sort of opportunity comes along where we need some funding to do those retrofits, we will come back at some point, randomly, in the next year, 2, 3, 4, something like that. But they do need to be done, and the biggest one is the one out front here, Lakeshore. Siphon tank was in the Lakeshore East Basin project. In a study and evaluation, we ended up determining the siphon is really going to be a surge chamber, because we're going to build the Lakeshore East is going to take all the siphon water pretty much. And so we clean it, gutted it, once again by our own staff, and we clean it once a year, with our sewer crew goes in there and jets it all out. It doesn't feel much now, and it'll even super less when we get Lakeshore East up and running. New thing we never talked about before is like Erie Road EQ Basin, the big dome on Erie Road, overflowed twice last year. You only get 3 bypass events, but 2 of them overflowed that over the walls, out of the ground, heading towards the railroad. EPA is not going to let that continue to happen without saying something. I'm saying it yet, but it's overflow. Looking back through records 5 times since 2018. Not even counting back where it overflowed in like 1997. So there are big enough rain events that whole system can't handle. Your road trunk is full all the way to the plant. There's nowhere for the water to go but up and out. So the engineers were talking about putting we were getting together with deciding to put some metering in there to try to figure out what kind of volume of water we look at that to come and add that, and whether I'm thinking down the road there's another heating tank on the horizon somewhere in that area, somewhere. But these things all take time. Hear about it now, first time. Budget request, item number 14, we were looking for like about 4.6 million. Budget's about 1.1 lower than last year's adopted adjusted budget. Last year's expenditure was 4.1 million, about 3% higher than 22, but it's mostly due to inflation. There wasn't really one item that jumped out. It's like a little bit of everything. And inflation's just been tough. But we are trying to watch our spending. So noteworthy, item number 15 in the budget is the size of the debt. Debt service in budget moving forward. 24 debt service was going to be $738,000. That's just our debt service. Of that, 4.5 million budgeted, 800,000 debt. Year-end debt's about just under 10 million. What's going to happen is that Lakeshore East, we'll talk about that later, estimates at $10 million, something like that. We're getting a $3.5 million earmark. All the rest is going to be plowed. By my calculations, that when we're said and done, we're adding another 300,000 to 400,000 of debt service per year. So now we're getting into that area over $1 million of debt service that finance directors are going to get their attention. Because we have raised sewer rates. How are you going to do it? I'll throw out this, we talked about this before, when EPA looks to add this sort of thing, when our new permit cycle comes up, and they impose things that they want us to build, they have a thing called means testing, and they kind of look at it as like, most people, communities can afford 2% of their median household income to pay for sewer credit. 2%. East Lake median income was $53,000 roughly. It's $1,000 a year for sewer bill. So the EPA can't cry like that. We can't afford it. So that's, I'm trying to depress everybody. That's that's the reality of what we have here, and we'll see how the project goes, and where we end up with that. Item number 16 is the flow split. That's pretty much in line with where it was last year, the 59-41. And we always recommend using that as how the divvy up the O&M costs. These are the replacement projects, nearing the end, people. The two replacement projects that we had from last year in the new capital that's in the design phase. The one is the water main project. As far as I know, we talked about this will be year 6, if not 7, about replacement, but we are so much closer. The engineers can jump in here at any time if they want to say how confident we are really. I know we have stuff out there for the Lake County reviewing, EPA reviewing the PTI. We have a pathway, third spot that we decided to put it, and it's broken up into 2 pieces. One going down Hartford Road, which will be a public water, and then a private water from WPCC going off the back of that through our back property for our water fall.
Yeah, so I'm going to jump in. Lake County approved. On the portion of the plan there, EPA for their approval, they said one comment, which is kind of like a spelling error, so we know that's going to be approved in the future. We'll probably be bidding in the next month. We dug soil bores because of the known high groundwater table in the area. We're going to specify groundwater, so that'll add to the cost some, but it's much better than the previous route coming off of Erie Road. So things are looking good. Both councils passed legislation authorizing easements, so we have 5 easements we're working with. So all the complications of any projects we've ever dealt with in the water rates to get from Victor Boulevard to the point. Going good. Sometimes we also have WPCC grant money coming in, and we have outside help to pay for this.
Yeah, $190,000 grant and a $15,000 zero interest loan. So that'll offset the cost of the water. Still have to bid around $400,000, the latest one we've got. So that'll help significantly towards it. The other item that near completion is actually going on is the belt filter press project. The belt press number 2, we talked about that before. We put it in 1993, and it's barely moving along. And we also got a $200,000 grant for that, and a $150,000 zero loan, so $350,000 to offset the cost. Project cost, the total cost is about $634, including engineers, but engineering gets passed the companion legislation authorized expenditure for replacement of the 560, which is what the project went for in the road. And we contacted last week about moving forward. They approved their notice to proceed on the 7th, so we're rolling along. The press should, the 3 to 4 month out. We hope, they say, but that'll be awesome once we get that in and back up that. Whatever people don't sleep at night about one of them is the fact that I don't have one really good belt press, stuff like that. We only have one piece of equipment, and we've done equipment everywhere. It's one of those things that you want to make sure you get the backup back in. But I'll bring it up now, kind of good without being too negative with money sort of thing. But the replacement fund that we have, that we set aside money all the time with all these projects we have. These 2 projects, most importantly, the water line and belt press are coming out of replacement, but with the money and the grant that we're getting, it's all going to get reimbursed. So we'll be passed legislation to say that we're going to take the money that we get, reimburses it. So by my counting, the finance director, that we'll have like $2.1 million in the replacement fund this year without the addition of the $450 that usually goes in. So having like $2.5 million in the replacement fund is a really good cushion for things that come up and that happen. And that being said, there's more positive things that I like to bring up. For every million that you borrow, currently WPCC loan rates are into a 20-year for like 2.5%. 30 years for like 2 3/4, and $63,000 a year debt service will support $1 million worth of project for 20-year and 49 for 30 years. So they're doing 30 years now because they realize that people don't have that much money, so they use it to spread it out. So that, to me, that always makes it not so scary when you look at the cost of debt service for big projects or even small ones. Next one is the Lakeshore East project. We talked about that multiple times, but Tim will know more where we're at in that. Everybody knows we had a $3.5 million earmark from the feds. That took forever for them to issue the final guidance and get that out to us. We just had our kickoff meeting with them. I think it's the first one in January of this year. But where we are in the design process and everything, the hoops that we have to jump through. You
Right?
ready? Yeah.
Okay. So we plan to construct a 1.35 million gallon tank on the property purchased by the city of Forest Drive. Working on plans now. Inflation is a killer. Everyone knows that I can buy my 2x4 for a dozen eggs. It's about 1.35 million gallon sewage storage tank underground. At this point, we're hoping that the $3.5 million earmark covers inflation from the time the study was done a few years ago. That's an unfortunate reality. We are looking at options to save costs on tank construction. We have looked at building something identical to Quinn Road because it works so good. But that would potentially add $500,000 to $1 million to some of the alternatives we're looking at. So we will have 40% plans done this May. We have to submit to the EPA by September, according to the revised schedule, and then start construction hopefully beginning of 2025. We're looking at this point, without having complete plans, basically a $10 million project. Initially, the communities were prepared to spend $6 or $7 million, so rate studies were performed, and at least we will be planning on a lower cost estimate. The earmark came in, we thought we might get a break, and it turned out now we're right back to what we thought as far as rate with the original number. Basically, it was a wash with $3.5 million federal money. The federal earmark comes with a lot of paperwork that goes into environmental justification. They're asking all the detailed questions, it says what is the impact on the neighborhood, et cetera. So that is a lengthy process that we're well into. It's an exact same grant for earmark that Sugar Falls has on project stuff, and Sugar Falls is related to the path for us to follow, so we piggyback on the information they were learning. This paperwork, this little music project is a little more difficult because we're on vacant land. So the questions we're getting, instead of inside the test about wastewater plant, so it's a little more involved, and we're, like I said, we're well into that. So that's where we're at. I don't know if anyone has any questions. We have to answer them.
Item number 18 is this year's request for replacement fund. It's a small one, $28,000. The maintenance department is along with the shredder landfill pump station rebuild. We have the St. Clair pump station. It's probably our second largest one that we have on each road, the throughput of water. And the control panel from 1968. The pumps were replaced in 1986. And they need to be done. They have line shafts. Use the station 26, 25. Yeah. And so the motors and all that stuff is up top. And they have just really drive shafts that go all the way down to the basement where the pumps are. And we're going to put these drive submersibles and eliminate all that stuff. You got Bosun chairs that hang. You got to resell those U-joints, and it's safety and lots of things. You just can't clear the way you use it. You don't need to do it that way. So we're looking for $80,000 to do that. The two pending and future capital replacement projects, we kind of talked about that before, or that Central West and all EQ. Retrofits, there again, they were not going to do that anytime soon, with 4.6 million back in 2017, I think, when we did the original preliminary engineering on it and design. And once again, if somehow someone comes available, pursuing with everybody notified heavily before we start going out to them like that. Pretty much all I have. We have something, I remember 20 years ago, we always have to, when we get any grant money, we always have to guarantee that we're going to maintain everything for the service life of whatever we got the grant for, and we get lots of grants, so. I remember 20 will be in here forever. Item number 2, Tim sort of talked about, so we got that covered. Item number 3 is the last thing I have. I handed out, everybody should have a biosolids in-house transportation costs. We talked about that, and I did jump to the most exciting part was the last year we saved $4 million. But in what you have in front of you is really the layout. When we made a detail, we know how much it costs to have the mechanics and their salaries and their fringe benefits and their drives and their occupied for the 3 hours, 2 hours a day to haul stuff. So we use them for mechanic stuff, but we, at the same time, we try to make this as like right on as far as cost. So we didn't want to be like saying, pretending like there's some hidden costs that we can cover, and you can find anything, let me know. But all in there, any part, anything, any maintenance system, the gasoline, the diesel, everything is reflected in the annual cost of 23, which was $55,000. And so we're actually rejected contract is what we're using. That we only had one contract at that time, and so that's the number that they would have charged us to haul the stuff away. And that's on the second section in there, 310 would have been what we paid them to haul it away in a year. So between our costs, we even had we occasionally have to hire Ohio Bulk when our truck breaks down and we get it fixed. That's reflected in the good. We saved $4 million last year. The bottom section is just a running from inception. I'm going to do that for 5 years, and then this will then go away because we'll have established that this is the way to go. And in there, you'll see so far the contract would cost us $401,000. Our total startup in 2022, including the trucks and trailers, everything that we bought was $210. The O&M was $22 for 22. 5 for 23, all have full costs. So right now we're net 107 with all the costs. We have not shown there is the new cab that we bought. It's close to being used. That was 181, so that'll come off of that. So that'll be an additional cost, so we'll be below break even again. I'm expecting that they're going to sell the current WPCC 5. I don't know what we're going to get for it. It was used when we bought it. It is not made for the landfill. Tires, if you want to call them that, they run over stuff every day. It's amazing. This is nail. Endless nail. The new cab that we bought is meant for off-road. Doesn't mean the tires aren't going to go flat, but it's meant to not get stuck. This other truck gets stuck. As soon as you get stuck, your tires are spinning. You're just shredding your nail. Even if it's a light help. It really is. There's everything nasty in it that you can imagine. We broke all sorts of things, but the new cab should work. That being said, there's only one other item. I didn't get to be on the steam truck now. We're going to roll along, saving about $250,000 a year on how the truck will be paid for. The other thing we need is maybe another trailer. We have one trailer now, and we get behind on the sludge. You don't have anywhere to put it. And we need another trailer to put it in. Staff came up with a brilliant idea, is like we have the truck. We don't need to hire waste management to haul our dirt. They have it go away. We can save $9,000 a year just hauling our own stuff if we had a trailer to put it. like a dual purpose. We could use it when we get behind on sludge and fill it over the weekend, and only haul up to the landfill when it fills over. So, but that'll give us like 2 things we can fill up and stay caught up. Surprisingly, we've been done very well without getting behind. And not having to, that was our big fear, is that somehow we would be right size, but we'd be constantly behind trying to catch up. Since we have a limited window to go to the landfill, and only one vehicle filled. So, some point maybe we'll find this year, come back looking for another trailer. And that will be completed. The thing to keep in mind, and I put in my correspondence, is we're buying trucks and trailers that are gonna last 20 years. To pay for the trailer latest quote we got was like 108 today or something like that. And we'll pay for that. Roughly what, 500. So I think this is, I'll be back, this will keep reassuring that I won't be down it so much anymore. It'll just be something in my report that this is the way to go, didn't do the right thing. Thank you guys for all letting us do it. We feel amazed that we pulled it all out. But only with all your guys' help and backing that we did that. But everybody at the plant is like, oh, this is so much, this is the way to go. We control everything. We got some good truck drivers. And I can't go without saying Vince's name, so he's in the record. He's our truck driver, and without his help, he was a truck driver before he came to the city. I don't know, and without his help, he told us what he did, everything he needed. Awesome support. All part of the support that they did have. With that, anybody have any questions on anything? I want to say for the record too, that our assistant superintendent, John Hall, been there 12 years, 13 years, just retiring in May. And Mike Brooks is the heir apparent to the job. Like I said, he's working on the support, and so he's able to. And that'll be it. Now I'm hanging around for a little while.
I got a question. So we treat the water to store it. Is there a shelf life on that?
No.
So that you can take it.
It's amazing how quickly most rain events, and so everything engineers, what we're designed for, is like a peak. If you think of water in a flow like this, like a mountain, we need to take that peak. Everything out of that's under 24 million we can handle. Anything over that, we need to put somewhere. Just in that moment that it's all coming. And so that's what we do. Everything we do. My big plan is to Lake Shore East, and then take these EPC tanks that we have spread throughout the city. Some of them are dry in these rain events. They don't fill. Why can't you store water there? The water's passing through them, but you can't store water because they're all passive. You can't close them. Currently, you can't. You can push water. We can close, shut, put the pump off, and put water into it. We got 1 million gallon storage there. The last rain event we had, as it was, nothing was going in there. Waverly sewers were bringing the water right to the plant. Nothing was going in there, so we made the water go in there. 900,000 we pushed in there. Otherwise, I would have already planned by. So the big overarching plan is to retrofit all these EQ tanks that we have throughout the system. And based on the rain and what's going on right now, that's what we're kind of learning to do. Is like, okay, so it's not going to rain here anymore. It's not raining in the south. Let's do this. Take water here and put it there. And it's remarkable how quickly it drains off. Like you go past that peak and then we can start, pumping out tanks all over, draining back into the plant.
So does the high water table affect that too?
That's all part of the I&I. It drains, you can figure out how to keep all the water out of the system with all the illegal connections. The I&I is like info, all the cracks in the pipes over the years. When we found like in Willoughby, I think we take lines just about everything. It's not the main. It's all the house all the private property, get rid of it. We both concluded that this building still needs to be taken to store and treated. You get more bang for your buck. You'll spend way more money trying to get rid of every little piece. And
So there's still houses that have storm and sewer on the same line, right? Like the old one?
It's all separate stretch, so we're on primarily. We still have some of those, storm underground. Little leak for, it's unusual that you overrun the sewer, you do have a storm that's deeper than the tank. So we get the other direction, which is a different problem. We try to correct all of those, but we're not discharging dirty water at all our storm houses. But for the most part, every building, we actually have separate storm tanks that get to a separate storm tank or sewer. And it ends up at the plant and also ends up in the river.
yes, we never moved in. So, we never changed it from on high nine, and all the sewer lines we did, you know, all the mains and all that are all good. So, we never changed all the water from over time. But, you take it to the end. And you store it and treat it. And the capacity enhancement is really, it's pretty cool. You can see the spikes coming in, you can see the water rising, and you got a camera, and it's amazing. And she shrunk it into the plant, you know, decided everything up for a 10 million flow, that was some heat. Like, you know, one of the big things is like, I want to be able to take that peak up to 50 million or whatever, shoot that, you know, our primary tanks, and then pump it to the back. We took all our, really the capacity enhancement, took all our idle tanks that was in there and used them and ran that. Or a third of the plant, it's filled some, but you can't get it in. You can't get it from. Lose it, zero percent. Any other questions?
Got it, any other questions? Well, I want to thank each of you, thank you. You always bring so much detail, like, I can see how much pride you and your department have just by what you put into this, and it's really appreciated. And Mr. Brooks, I would do the best I can as we go over the survey, so please let us know.
Yeah.
When you would see that I'm looking at. Outside of that, I'd like to close this on February 21st at 6:46 p.m. And remember the peace and that. Thank you.
Thank you.